Welcome to today's reading from the Krishna book. We are on the last chapter of the Krishna book, chapter 55. Pradyumna born to Krishna and Rukmini. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. It is said that Cupid, who is directly part and parcel of Lord Vasudeva and who was formerly burnt to ashes by the anger of Lord Shiva, took birth from the womb of Rukmini, begotten by Krishna. This is Kamdev, a demigod of the heavenly planets, especially capable of inducing lusty desires. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna has many grades of parts and parcels, but the quadruple expansions of Krishna, Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna and Aniruddha are directly in the Vishnu category, Kama or the Cupid demigod, who later took birth from the womb of Rukmini, was also named Pradyumna. But he cannot be the Pradyumna of the Vishnu category. He belongs to the category of Jiva Tattva. But for exhibiting special power in the category of demigods, he was a part and parcel of the super prowess of Pradyumna. This is the verdict of the Goswamis. Therefore, when Cupid was burnt to ashes by the anger of Lord Shiva, he merged into the body of Vasudeva, and to get his body again, he was begotten in the womb of Rukmini by Lord Krishna himself. Thus he was born as the son of Krishna and celebrated by the name Pradyumna. Because he was begotten by Lord Krishna directly, his qualities were most similar to those of Krishna. There was a demon of the name Shambhara who was destined to be killed by this Pradyumna. The Shambhara demon knew of his destiny, and as soon as he learned that Pradyumna was born, he took the shape of a woman and kidnapped the baby from the maternity home less than 10 days after his birth. The demon took him and threw him directly into the sea. But as it is said, whoever is protected by Krishna, no one can kill, and whoever is destined to be killed by Krishna, no one can protect. When Pradyumna was thrown into the sea, a big fish immediately swallowed him. Later, this fish was caught in the net of a fisherman, and the fish was later sold to the Shambhara demon. In the kitchen of the demon was a maid servant whose name was Mayavati. The woman had formerly been the wife of Cupid called Rati. When the fish was presented to the demon Shambhar, he was taken charge of by this cook, who was to make it into a palatable fish preparation. Demons and Rakshasas are accustomed to eating meat, fish, and similar non-vegetarian foods. Demons like Ravan, Kamsa, and Hiranyakashipu, although born of Brahmana and Kshatriya fathers, used to take meat and flesh without discrimination. This practice is still prevalent in India, and those who eat meat and fish are generally called demons and Rakshasas. When the cook was cutting the fish, he found within its stomach a nice baby boy, which he immediately presented to the charge of Mayavati, who was an assistant in the kitchen affairs. This woman was surprised to see how such a nice baby could remain within the belly of a fish, and the situation perplexed her. The great sage Narad then appeared and explained to her about the birth of Pradyumna and how the baby had been taken away by Shambhara and later thrown into the sea. In this way, the whole story was disclosed to Mayavati. Mayavati knew that she had previously been Rati, the wife of Cupid. After her husband was burned to ashes by the wrath of Lord Shiva, she was always expecting him to come back in a material form. This woman was engaged for cooking rice and dal in the kitchen. But when she got this nice baby and understood that he was Cupid, her own husband, the baby swiftly grew up and within a very short period of time became a beautiful young man. His eyes were just like the petals of lotus flowers and his arms were long down to his knees. Any woman who happened to see him was captivated by him. Mayavati could understand that her former husband, born as Pradyumna, had grown into such a nice young man, and she also gradually became captivated by him. Smiling before him with a feminine attractiveness, she expressed her desire for uniting with him. He therefore inquired from her, "How is it possible that first you were affectionate like a mother, and now you are expressing the symptoms of a woman? What is the reason for such a change?" On hearing this statement from Pradyumna, the woman replied, "My dear sir, you are the son of Lord Krishna. Before you were 10 days old, you were stolen by Shambhara demon and later thrown into the water and swallowed by a fish. In this way, you have come under my care. But actually, in your former life as Cupid, I was your wife. Therefore, my manifestation of conjugal symptoms is not at all incompatible. Shambhara wanted to kill you, and he is endowed with various mystic powers. Therefore, before he again attempts to kill you, please kill him as soon as possible with your divine power. Since you were stolen by Shambhara, your mother Rukmini Devi has been in a very grievous condition, like a kurari bird who has lost her babies. She is very affectionate toward you, and since you have been taken away from her, she has been living like a cow, aggrieved over the loss of its calf. Mayavati had mystic knowledge of supernatural powers. Supernatural powers are generally known as Maya, and to surpass all such powers, there is another supernatural power called Mahamaya. Mayavati had the knowledge of mystic power of Mahamaya, and she delivered it to Pradyumna, this specific energetic power, in order to defeat the mystic powers of the Shambhara demon. Thus, being empowered by his wife, Pradyumna immediately went before Shambhara and challenged him to fight. Pradyumna addressed him in a very strong language so that his temper would be agitated and he would be moved to fight. At Pradyumna's word, the demon Shambhara, being insulted, felt just as a snake feels after being struck by someone's foot. A serpent cannot tolerate being kicked by another animal or a man, and it immediately bites its opponents. Shambhara felt the words of Pradyumna as if they were a kick. He immediately took his club in his hand and appeared before Pradyumna to fight. Roaring like a thundering cloud in a great anger, the demon began to beat Pradyumna with his club, just as a thunderbolt beats a mountain. Pradyumna protected himself with his own club and eventually struck the demon very severely. In this way, the fighting between Shambharasur and Pradyumna began in earnest. But Shambharasur knew the art of mystic powers and could raise himself into the sky and fight from outer space. There is a demon by the name Maya, and Shambharasur had learned many mystic powers from him. He thus raised himself high into the sky and threw various types of nuclear weapons at the body of Pradyumna. To combat the mystic powers of Shambharasur, Pradyumna invoked another mystic power known as Mahavidya, which was different from the black mystic power. This Mahavidya mystic power is based on the quality of goodness. Shambhara, understanding that his enemy was formidable, took assistance from various kinds of demoniac mystic powers belonging to the Guhyakas and Gandharvas, the Pishachas, the Snakas, the Rakshasas, and although the demon exhibited his mystic powers and took shelter of supernatural strength, Pradyumna was able to counteract his strength and powers by the superior power of Mahavidya. When Shambharasur was defeated in every respect, Pradyumna took his sharp sword and immediately cut off the demon's head, which was decorated with a helmet and valuable jewels. When Pradyumna thus killed the demon, all the demigods in the higher planetary system showered flowers on him. Pradyumna's wife Mayavati could travel in outer space, and therefore they directly reached Dwarka, his father's capital, by the airways. They passed over the palace of Lord Krishna and came down as the cloud comes down with the lightning. The inner section of a palace is known as Antahapur, or the private apartments. Pradyumna and Mayavati could see many women there, and they sat down among them. When the women saw Pradyumna dressed in yellowish garments with very long arms, curling hairs, beautiful reddish eyes, a smiling face, jewelry and ornaments, they at first could not recognize him as a personality different from Krishna. They all felt very bashful and wanted to hide in different corner of the palace. When the women saw, however, that not all the characteristics of Krishna were present in the personality of Pradyumna, out of curiosity they came back to see him and his wife Mayavati. All of them were conjecturing as to who he was, for he was so beautiful. Among the women was Rukmini Devi, who was equally beautiful with her lotus-like eyes. Seeing Pradyumna, she naturally remembered her own son and began to wonder, who is this beautiful young boy? He appears to be the most beautiful person. Who is the fortunate young woman who became his mother? And who is that young woman who has accompanied him? How have they met? Remembering my own son who was stolen from the maternity home, I can only guess that if he is living somewhere, he might have grown by this time to be like this boy. Simply by intuition, Rukmini could understand that Pradyumna was her own lost son. She could also observe that Pradyumna resembled Lord Krishna in every respect. She was struck with wonder as to how he had acquired all the characteristics of Lord Krishna. She therefore began to think more confidently that the boy must be her own grown-up son, because she had felt so much affection for him, and as an auspicious sign her left arm was trembling. At that very moment, Lord Krishna, along with his father and mother, Devaki and Vasudeva, appeared on the scene. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, could understand everything, yet in that situation he remained silent. However, by the desire of Lord Krishna, the great sage Narada also appeared, and he disclosed all the incidents. How Pradyumna had been stolen from the maternity home, and how he had grown up and come there with his wife Mayavati, who had formerly been Rati, the wife of Cupid. When everyone was informed of the mysterious disappearance of Pradyumna and how he had grown up, they were all struck with wonder, because they had gotten back their dead son after they were almost hopeless of his return. When they understood that it was Pradyumna who was present, they received him with great delight. One after another, all the members of the family, Devaki, Vasudeva, Lord Krishna, Lord Balram, Rukmini, and all the women of the family embraced Pradyumna and his wife Mayavati. When the news of Pradyumna's return spread over the city of Dwarka, all the astonished citizens came with great eagerness to see the lost Pradyumna. The dead son has come back, they said. What can be more pleasing than this? Srila Shukadev Goswami has explained that in the beginning, all the ladies of the palace, who were all mothers and stepmothers of Pradyumna, mistook him to be Krishna and were all bashful, infected by the desire for conjugal love. The explanation is that Pradyumna's personal appearance was exactly like Krishna, and he was factually Cupid himself. There was no cause for the astonishment, therefore, when the mothers of Pradyumna and the other women mistook him in that way. It is clear from this statement that Pradyumna's bodily characteristics were so similar to Krishna that he was mistaken for Krishna even by his own mother. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 55th chapter of Krishna, Pradyumna born to Krishna and Rukmini. So we have finished the reading of the Krishna book today, and we have seen how Pradyumna was born to Krishna and Rukmini. Pradyumna, who was none other than Cupid himself in his former life, and how with so many incidents, one after the another, happening in his life, they all led him to be reunited again with Rukmini and Krishna in Dwarka. So all these stories are no less than fairy tales to us, because just by reading them, I feel bewildered so many times. I don't know about all of you who are hearing them, but because they have Krishna in the middle in all these stories, so they are very auspicious to be heard and spoken. And tomorrow is Janmashtami, and we will try to begin another reading from another book, which is the basics of the Bhagavad Gita. And I wish you all a very happy day ahead. And please drink a lot of water today if you're observing Janmashtami fast tomorrow, because it is warm everywhere. But then again, as Prabhupada has always said, that fasting should only be done according to your own body strength. So no need to push yourself beyond your body limits. Those who can observe Nirjala, try to do Nirjala. Those who can't, they can have water, fruits, and if you want to have, you can have the Ekadashi Prasad also in the day. But if you're observing fast, open it with the Ekadashi fast, that is non-grain preparations. So have a nice day, everyone. See you all tomorrow. Hare Krishna.